Hey guys, Dantix here. Veilguard previews have released to overwhelming positivity. I'll start with I told you so. Now, as you'd expect, there are a ton of videos diving into impressions, so I won't waste your time with that. Instead, I wanted to quickly point out some interesting parts of the game that I've seen in the footage shown. Sources below. These will include all Specialization ultimates, the character creator, faction bonuses, Inquisitor customization, difficulty, and more. Starting off with the Mage's ultimate ability, which you get for simply being a mage, rather than ones you unlock as you choose a specialization. So each class gets 4 total ultimates, as there are 3 specializations per class. This ultimate launches a beam of fire that seems to do a lot of damage over its duration. As you can see though, it leaves you vulnerable while you're channeling. We don't yet know the Rogues and Warriors non-specialization ultimates. We do get a good look at each specialization's ultimate though. The Deathcaller and Mage specialization, focused around necrotic damage and stealing life, has an ultimate Crypt's Herald that has you absorbing life from enemies around you in an AoE for a short time before exploding, dealing high damage to everyone around you. The Spellblade is more of a melee focused specialization, and its ultimate conjures a massive electrical explosion in front of you, applying the shock status to all enemies hit and dealing high damage. The Invoker is the staff and ranged specialization, who can conjure a black hole to pull in a group of enemies for a long duration. Seems very effective with AoE abilities and companions, or if your party composition is lacking crowd control. The Champion is your defensive, sword and board focused warrior specialization that blows a horn and summons in a rain of flaming arrows and a rock, presumably from a trebuchet or a catapult. It applies burning to those hit. The Reaper is about draining life and playing risk-reward with your health. It can summon a necrotic whirlwind that drains enemies in its effect. The Slayer is your two-handed specialization. It can leap into the air and slam back onto the ground, dealing high physical damage in an AoE. Then we have the Rogue specialization, starting with the Saboteur, which uses traps and turrets. Its ultimate can pull out a hand cannon and just start blasting where you aim. The Duelist ultimate we've seen before, a necrotic attack that hits everything within its area. The Veil Ranger is your ranged rogue specialization, and their ultimate summons 2 orbs of some kind that fly around the battlefield, hitting enemies for a long duration. It doesn't do too much damage up front, but it seems very effective. Moving on, Veilguard won't shy away from environmental puzzles to reveal new areas or secrets. Here we see a better designed Canary male. Although they don't look as cool as the Arashock from Dragon Age 2, it's still a far cry better than what we saw from IGN's footage previously. Here we see Balara absorbing some magical energy from a construct with her gauntlet. This is her introductory mission, so you can speculate exactly what she's doing here. Hint, it's not role-playing as Ash Ketchum. In combat, you'll notice that enemies have 3 different colors over their health bars. Over their red health though can be blue for shield and yellow for armor. Certain skills interact with these protections better, but the general rule of thumb is blue shields take extra damage from ranged attacks, as you can see here, and they regenerate. Armor takes extra damage from heavy attacks, meaning that even a warrior might want to weave in a Captain America shield toss every now and then. Also, it doesn't matter how you kill your enemies, they may drop loot, something a few of you thought was missing from this title. Loot drops, unless of course you punt an enemy off a cliff and you can't reach them. Here you see an enemy freezes, explodes, and still drops some inactive cores. So we've seen Static Strikes, which is an ability unlock, but here we see one of the rogue traits, Exploding Arrow. Traits add an extra type of basic attack to your weapons. In this case, if you press light and ranged buttons together, you do a spin and attach an exploding arrow to an enemy, blowing them and those around them up. You won't have enough points to get everything, and some traits are locked behind specializations, meaning that you can customize with the 3 basic abilities you have slotted, but you can also customize based on your weapons and traits. Also shown here, there are multiple ways for you to pet and love animals in the game. Here we see Harding still damaged from the choices you made in the opening act. Initially, we were worried someone hurt her. It turns out that someone is you. Your choice will either damage her or Nev, so there will be moments in the game that you agonize over. Choices are everything in Dragon Age, and I will personally be replaying the game to see how they all pan out. Before you create your character, you'll be given a nice little backstory narrated by Varric. So Dragon Age fans, new and old, will be up to date with all the happenings. You'll then be thrown into the character creator. So when creating a character, you have 5 major choices. Your lineage, which is your race, your appearance, as in how specifically you look, your class, which is how you'll play in combat, your faction, which gives you bonuses and special dialogue at points in the game, your playstyle, as in the kind of difficulty and settings you want, And finally, as a bonus, you can customize how your Inquisitor from Dragon Age Inquisition looks. So let's point out the notable parts from each. First, lineage. You'll notice that it plays absolutely no role in combat, so you don't have to worry about that. There's no statistical differences, nor is there restrictions besides two. Some races have different customization options, like Canary getting their own set of hairstyles. Also, dwarfs can't be mages. Your lineage also affects how people treat you in the world and some dialogue. Appearance is quite a large topic, but I'll gloss over it as almost every other video out there right now goes through this. It's your standard character creator. You can't go nuts with the creator like you can in some games though. Face-wise, there are a lot of options, but body-wise, it's quite limited. You can't make an extremely tall character or fat. They don't even give you a realistic size range of booty and boob sizes. No idea why they like the masculine restrictions, but hey, it's their game. Just not every girl is going to like this. If you're a bloke and you're making yourself in-game, be it a more muscular one, you should be fine with what's on offer here. Class is probably the most important choice, as it will impact combat moving forward and can't be changed once locked in. You can add and remove points from the skill tree outside of combat at any time, which means changing your specialization, but you're locked into either rogue, warrior, or mage. Thankfully, the tooltips let you see what each specialization is about before you lock the choice in. We'll go through each class in more detail in another video. Next is faction, which is your choice of 6 backgrounds. These give you a bit of backstory along with a surname appropriate to the faction. Most importantly though, they give you bonuses in gameplay. Like the lineage, you'll get unique dialogue options, but also 3 passives. The first gives you faster reputation gains with the faction you're a part of. The next increases damages to a type of enemy, and the last is a unique bonus. All of these aren't major increases, so don't pick a background just because of them. Starting with Grey Wardens, your last name will be Thorn, and you'll deal, to no one's surprise, more damage to Darkspawn. You'll also get an increase to base defense and health. You'll notice that all these bonuses work for any class you choose, so there isn't a clear, better background for each class. The Veil Jumper's last name is Aldweir? It deals increased damage to Fey Touch enemies and deals slightly increased critical and weak point damage. The Shadow Dragon's surname is Mercer, and it deals increased damage to Venatori, and your class-specific resource regenerates slightly faster. That's Adrenaline for warriors, Momentum for rogues, and Mana for mages. The Lords of Fortune have the last name Ladir, deal increased damage to mercenaries. They also perform takedowns on enemies with slightly less effort. The Morn Watcher's surname is Engelvar. Oh god, I'm not looking forward to the comments. Deals increased damage to undead and demons. They also apply additional affliction stacks on targets. All classes can afflict enemies in some way. Finally, the Antivan Crows deal extra damage to Antam. They also hold an extra potion. Playstyle lets you tune your difficulty. You see incoming damage, enemy aggression, tactical challenge, and defend timing. Incoming damage is obvious, the damage you'll take. Enemy aggression seems to be how much enemies attack and how often they use their abilities. Tactical challenge though may increase enemies' health and incentivize you to use combos, weaknesses, and resistances to get through enemies more effectively. Though I'm not entirely sure how they incentivize the tactics if they don't increase your health and defense. Defend timing is the window of time you have to block and parry. If you don't have the reflexes anymore to hit Dark Souls-like timing windows, you can fine-tune this. Here is the Adventurer Combat preset. This is the recommended experience. Keeper is slightly easier, and Storytelling is the easiest, but it'll mostly be a game about the story at that point with almost no combat difficulty. There are 2 higher difficulty presets as well as a custom difficulty which lets you tune each slider. You then finalize your character by writing their first name, picking a voice and a pitch, and like I mentioned, you can also customize your Inquisitor from the last game. Since 10 years have passed, Bioware are no longer using Dragon Age Keep. Here we can make the following choices: lineage, appearance, name, and voice. What's interesting though is that we get a last name based on their lineage, something that didn't happen in Inquisition. But yes, you can make an Inky the same as yours and continue the story going. After you lock in your choices, there'll be a bar scene in which you're introduced to Varric. You make one of 2 choices, a direct approach or diplomatic. This choice is remembered by Varric and will influence conversations with him in the future. We've seen the same effect happen with Solus, and we can expect a lot of moments like these where your choices influence NPCs. You then step out, and the opening sequence we saw in the gameplay trailer reveal begins. So that's everything. What do you think? More or less excited? Let me know below. For everything Veilguard and RPG, you're in the right place. Ciao, friends.